Okay, they said let's start early, so thank you everyone for coming. As we continue fully engulfed with basketball, a lot of games coming up this week. This is our Breakfast with Mercer basketball week. Be a lot of fun. Coach Gardner, of course, will be up just a moment, and Shawn Walker Jr. will represent our players, and Coach Gary will be there as well. But Coach coming off Gardner win yesterday. She'll be returning to Athens this week. Of course, she played a little bit of basketball. She won't tell you this, but I can. But back in the 80s, 83, 84, and 86, Coach played with some of the premier women's basketball players in that Georgia program. Teresa Edwards, Janet Harris, and Katrina McLean. So she'll be returning to Stegman Coliseum on Wednesday morning. We'll start off on Tuesday with the men against Middle Georgia State. Coach will talk about that. Coach Gardner will be at home in Athens on Wednesday, and then both teams on the road Saturday. The women at Troy at 3 o'clock and the men at Florida Gulf Coast at 7. Coach might want to touch base with us, the success of the Merry Christmas program, which went real well. If you want to give us an update on that, Coach. But with that, we'll turn it over to Coach Gardner.
If y'all didn't get all that, we play Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. The women play Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday. I couldn't keep up with yours, so. Tuesday and Saturday, I think.
Yes.
Yes, okay. The Alabama game, the Merry Christmas project, Mary's Closet, was exceptional. Mike Kaplan and Jamie both texted me after I didn't get many texts after that game, but I got some texts from the Kaplans thanking us for doing such a great job. And Mike showed me a picture of his trunk of his car, said they got hundreds and hundreds of socks. So that was amazing. The crowd was great. We got off to a slow start and never recovered, but I was really appreciative of Christie and their program for bringing socks. I thought the pregame ceremony was special, and I thought hopefully it brought some attention to that cause. And then we played, we got a lot going on. We played last night, or yesterday afternoon, I guess, and had a decent game. I wouldn't say we played great, but we found a way and are getting better, and then, of course, Wednesday we have Georgia, so that's what we got coming up.
Coach, looking back to the Alabama game, from my observation, the press defense just you guys looked to struggle against that little, and Aaron and Morty looked like the main ball handlers in the situation. What did you take away from that, and what are you looking to change going forward for your next?
Well, we talk about this as our staff, but Moria and Howard are 5'6", and that was a concern of mine going into the Alabama game. And quite honestly, Georgia, the coach came from Central Florida, Lord. Georgia is going to now all of a sudden press too. And so if you stayed for the whole game, if you noticed in the second half, we changed our press offense. We had Aaron inbound to Jaren, and we had no trouble at all breaking the press. So Jaren's a little bit taller. She could throw over the trap. And so those types of things, we can make corrections, in game, after games. You can't necessarily simulate that in practice necessarily, but we've gotten, maybe a different idea as to who can, not bringing anything up, but I will. Back in the day, we had Sydney Means. Nobody could press us. We had a point guard that actually could dribble through it, and we don't have that right now, so we've got to be creative. And, we work on it every single day. We work against the guys every single day, trapping us, quicker than us, that type of thing. But, Coach Greg can tell you that you can have 70 different sets for offense, but there's only a handful of sets that you can have for press offenses. And at the end of the day, it comes a point in time when the players have to be able to maneuver. Now, it's my job also. I'm not putting it on them, but it's my job also to put the right people in the right position. So I do think we made progress putting Jaren there. But we've still got some things to work on with that.
In terms of the bounce back ability, when you called that early timeout yesterday in the second half there, how do you like their response? Did they respond the way you wanted them to? And as that kind of progresses, do you like your team's ability to kind of bounce back and make those adjustments?
Well, first of all, I am a timeout hoarder. I don't like to call timeouts. I like to have them for our game, women's game, especially when you could advance the ball in the fourth quarter. We've won a lot of games with that strategy, so I try to not call timeouts. But in that situation, it's like the third or third quarter in a row that we've just come out. I mean, we just came out flat. We talked about, Amoria got the steal to start the game. I said, okay, our defense is going to show up, and then we just kind of came out flat. And I just can't sit there, as a competitor. As a player, you can go out there. As a player, you can go out there and you set a hard screen, you can get a hard foul, you can get a rebound. But as a coach, all you can do is call a timeout and holler. So that's what I did. And I feel like they responded decently. It wasn't an aha moment, but it was. I got my point across. And we're going to talk about that today, in fact, under calmer circumstances. But we've got to figure out coming out of halftime and do a much better job than what we did.
When you go to Athens to take on this team, obviously different players, but given that you played Katie's team last year at UCF, how similar is the style that you've seen on film so far?
Yeah, it's interesting because normally when we play Georgia, I know every player I follow, I know every player, I know where they came from, the high school, this, that, and the other. And that's kind of gone by the wayside since Landers retired a little bit. It's a lot different. But last night I watched the scout that Coach Wearsby gave me, and then the second thing I watched was our game versus Central Florida last year, which is why I got confused as to who we're playing. So I watched our game last year versus Central Florida to give us an idea as to what we could or couldn't do. Now, out of their starters, they have 3 players from Central Florida and 1 from Texas, transfers. So it's a totally different look than what the whole team was last year, but it will help us by watching UCF for sure.
Coach, Georgia, of course, pretty solid program in Troy as well this week that you're playing, and one of the top mid-major programs in the last few years. What are you looking to get out of this stretch of pretty solid games this week?
Well, Georgia is our last BCS preseason game we have, and I think as a team that's in the state of Georgia is Mercer. It's kind of always a big deal. It's a little bit unfortunate that's an 11 o'clock in the afternoon or in the morning game, but hopefully we'll compete against them, and we got a chance. We always have a chance. I always feel like we have a chance to win. Troy, on the other hand, is another mid-major, just like Middle Tennessee, that's picked to win their conference that we played last year and actually beat them last year here. They also press. I mean, she tends to recruit. She came from junior college as a JUCO coach, so her MO is to recruit JUCO players pretty much across the board, and they're going to be athletic and all over the place. So it's going to be another difficult challenge for us, but that's what we signed up for this preseason.
Coach, we need coming into the season, very challenging non-conference schedule that you set with your opponents. However, yesterday you were sharing with me, record might not be what you want it to be, but you like the work ethic of this team. If you would share with us what you shared with me yesterday.
Yeah, I think I don't really know our record, quite honestly. I never really know our record. Most of the time I know how many we've lost, but I'm not even keeping up with that this year. The way I'm gauging this program, this team, is are we improving? And I will tell you, this team is so coachable. I mean, we had shooting practice yesterday at 9 a.m., and 4 of them were there at 8. The other half were there at 8:15, and then all of them were on the court at 8:30, and they're just working extra. The culture is amazing. So I mean, they're great to coach, and we could be losing heart, but Moria has had some tough games, and if you notice when I took her out, I gave her a hug because it's my job to have the pulse of each player, and we're getting punched in the face a lot, and Amoria's been punched a little bit more than what she's used to, so she needed that game yesterday. So I've got to continue to keep them up and confident, and I've not lost faith at all. I know exactly how good this team can be. I know our shortcomings, obviously, but I love going to practice every day with this group. Thank you.
Coach Gardner.
Thanks.
Thank you, Coach. All right, Coach Gary.
Susie, isn't it fun when you win? You get a lot of texts. You got a lot of friends when you win. and then when you lose, you look at your phone and you're like,
Yeah,
dang.
my sister says I love you.
Right.
I love you.
It's gotten where my wife and kids don't even they don't even text me after a loss. They're so mad at me too. So it's pretty entertaining. But tough game. I don't even Friday? Yeah, Friday. Okay. Man, I thought our defense, like, I'm a big number stat guy, and our points per possession on defense, like, our goal is to get under 1. In that game, we had it under 1 for the whole game, which previous games, man, we'd do it for one half, and then the second half would be 1.2, which to some of you sounds very small, but it's a big difference. So I was happy that we actually defensively did a heck of a job in holding them to 66 points. They had a lot of veteran guys that have been around 4 or 5 years, 5 starters back. So that defensively was great. Now offensively was not. So if we could start putting it together, we're going to have a really good team. And that's where I'm not losing my mind about these. We've been in a lot of close games. Like Susie says, I really like this team an awful lot. We got some really good pieces, some good pieces that aren't here yet that have played, that will be playing this year. So their attitude's been fantastic. We just got to learn how to put two offense. It's a two-sided game here. We got offense and defense. So once we figure that out, and again, there's guys in different spots. Jalen McCreary was not an integral part at South Carolina or South Florida. He didn't play a whole lot of minutes. So now for us, he can do it. He's playing more minutes and he's in a different role. So we got to keep him on the floor a lot. Okay, and so he's making some silly fouls and he doesn't want to try to do them, but it's just that educating him on, being smarter and playing. So because he's a good player and he could be a really good player for us, but we just got to keep him on the floor. And our freshmen are freshmen. That happens. And they continue to get better. They're going to be up and down a little bit, but for the most part, Michael and David have been very, very consistent. And again, it goes back to those guys were their best players on their teams. So to come in and be coming off the bench and be in a different role is new to them. So we're always coaching, always trying to figure it out for them. And then Shawn Walker, which you'll listen to here soon, he's in a different role. His dad's a coach, so he always wants to please, and he's got to just let it go sometimes and play the game and not worry about making mistakes. And again, that's a process that he's got to go through. But we're excited to get back after it tomorrow morning, bright and early, Education Day, 11 a.m. It's funny because I don't really hear any noise that's going on, but I hear there's going to be a lot of screaming, a lot of elementary kids. I have a couple too myself, so believe me, at night I'm always asking them to be quiet. But tomorrow I will not be asking them to be quiet. That's for sure. And then Saturday we got Florida Gulf Coast, which is always, in the past has been a great game for Mercer between both of them. So we go back there again. Last year we went there. So looking forward, and Pat Chambers is a new coach there that came from Penn State, great coach. He's got a lot of good transfers, so looking forward to that and getting on the road and playing them Saturday. Any questions?
A unique game tomorrow. You mentioned Education Day, so you'll have the kids in the stands, but also a little bit of a pride battle in Macon, bringing in Middle Georgia State. Is there a sense of pride to win a battle of Macon teams like that?
No. We got to get better. We got to get better in offense and defense. So it doesn't matter who we were playing. It's not us. So I know, and they're keeping score. It's another opponent. That's the way I look at it.
With guys who are not accustomed to getting as many minutes like Jalen, and even I know you mentioned David before, is it just a thing about, hey, you can't play as freely as you want to because we need you out there longer? Like, how much of an adjustment is it getting them to bump up those?
Yeah, I don't think it's a freedom situation. I don't think that. It's just being smarter, defensively, not reaching silly fouls that put you on the bench, and paying attention to the game plan and trying to carry out your assignments. Those are things that it's a consistent, and there are times where it's not going to be perfect, but they've got a great attitude. Jalen always comes back, Coach, what can I do, to get better? Like, he wants to watch film immediately. And that's great, and that's why all these guys, that's why we're going to be fine, because we got good dudes that like Susie talked about, man, I enjoy going to practice. I really do, because they've continued to fight and they continue to try to get better. Once they figured out and where they're not thinking so much, I do want them to play the right way. So there are going to be situations where, I'm coaching them so that they play the right way, and they're not used to that. It's going to take a little bit of time. Now, I hope it doesn't take a whole lot of time, but that's just part of coaching, and that's part of them learning me and me learning them.
Coach, you said several times defensively you guys have been great recently, but offensively it's kind of been a struggle. Specifically, what offensively do you think has been a problem or issue?
Man, did I say great, our defense?
So.
Okay, all right.
It's always good.
Yes. It's been better. It was better against Kennesaw. There's no question. We had some more fight, but offensively, it's again, we've got some different pieces. Jalen Cobb's not playing. He could score for us. Luis has been more of a distributor where he came from. Shawn, I wanted to be more aggressive, and he's learning how to do that. And Kamar, same thing, and Dave's just, it's going to be difficult for Dave at times, just because I do want to throw him the basketball, but sometimes you get stagnant with it. And then Jalen McCreary, again, just finding out he's got to simplify the game for him and make things simple, and that's part of our job and putting him in those situations. So really it's just from an offensive standpoint, we haven't found our rhythm, in my opinion, whatsoever. But we will.
And regardless, you've kept close games. You've had 3 tough losses to some decent teams. What do you guys have to do when you get in those situations where it's down to 1 possession? What do you think might need to change there?
Every coach is going to say this: stops, don't turn the ball over, rebound. And that's because there are days where offensively you're not going to do, the ball's not going to go in. And I see interviews from coaches all the time, NBA coaches, it doesn't matter. The ball's not going to go in at times, but you can control your defense, your assignments, your team defense. If you can concentrate and keep concentrating on that and not worry about, man, I just missed my 5th shot in a row. Don't worry about that. If it's a good shot, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to. If it's a bad contested shot, then yeah, there's a problem. But if not, then let's try to work on getting stops and keep it close. And then towards the end of the game, yeah, we got to get some rebounds, got to execute, got to hit your free throws.
Coach Gary, I'm always asking you, but for these folks, an update for 2 guys that would probably be returning starters, Shannon Grant and James Glisson, to recap.
Yeah, Shannon and Shannon Grant, our center, he thinks he's a point guard, but he's a center, forward maybe. Forward might be a reach. But he's doing well. His foot's coming, it's healing correctly. A exact date, I can't give you that. But he is starting to move and do some cardio and do some on-court stuff. James Glisson, same thing. James is the one that broke a bone in his thumb. So he's starting to, neither one of them gone full in practice yet, but they're able to get on the court and do some shooting and work on their cardio. So looking forward to them getting back. But in the meantime, when they tell me they're ready, then that's when we'll figure it out. Okay, awesome.
Coach Gary.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. All right, Shawn Walker Jr. out of Elizabeth City, North Carolina, senior, 2nd year of the program, averaging 11.6 points a game, 2.9 rebounds, and 2.9 assists.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Great. Questions?
So Coach said you put a lot of this pressure on yourself sometimes to please, right? Does that come with being one of the guys now where you feel like the older guy in the group, you've been here, there's experience? Where does that pressure kind of come from?
It comes from, like you said, it comes from like being an older guy, just wanting to lead the younger guys by example, and also like with being an older guy, I want to make the most of this year. I want to make sure that I do my part to help the team win. I want to make myself proud every night, and I want to make my family proud. So sometimes I carry a lot of unnecessary pressure just to try to get it right, but it's all in good intention, so I'll get it right.
When you got guys like Shannon and James that are currently out, how do you kind of adjust to that? I know Coach said in the past that Shannon especially is still being pretty vocal there on the bench, but where does your role change when guys like that are out?
Just to try to be more vocal, lead by example. Both of those guys are returners, so they they're looked up to by some of our younger guys and some of our newcomers. So just leading by example, but focusing on our details, what we can do with the people that's on the floor, becoming better defensively, and just learning each other more. Like every day we get better at learning each other, and that's what it's going to take since we have a lot of newer guys. So.
How's that gelling process been? I would call you a leader on this team now, right? You're an older guy, like we said. You're out on the court quite a bit. You're leading top of the team in points. How's that gelling been so far from your perspective?
From my perspective, it's been coming along. Like I said, we get better and better every day. But once we gel completely, that's when I think we'll find a rhythm on offense. Just knowing where everybody's going to be at all times, knowing how to get certain guys shots, moving without the ball, just trusting the offense. So we have a ways to go, but I feel like we're definitely going in the right direction as far as gelling. Everybody likes to be around each other. We all enjoy going to practice, competing against each other. So we'll be fine.
John, Coach will tell us we need to be ready to play no matter what time the game is, but for you as a player, I don't know that you played a game before your pregame meal usually, but what's it going to be like to adjusting your schedule and being ready to go to 11 o'clock in the morning?
It's all about discipline. No matter what time you play, you got to be ready to go, just like Coach said. So with discipline, that goes into going to sleep at the right time, just making sure your body is right, watching film, whatever. So it's just about staying disciplined, just being ready for every day. Tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. So that's what type of mindset I try to take.
Anything else for Shawn? Excellent. All right, thank you so much, Shawn.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
y'all.
Thanks to everyone. Of course, we got a meal today. We'll